Dobro požalovat, welcome in everybody. It has been months and months and months. All of these matchups of Season 10, all 9 weeks of back-to-back action have culminated in what we will be seeing today. At least a fragment of what is yet to come. No more play-in matches, no more qualifiers. It is my pleasure to cut the red ribbon and officially introduce you all to the Season 10 playoffs. And here are our contestants, Invictus, Elysium, Nokron, and Ariandel, the latter only being decided last week. Remember that I mentioned qualifiers a few matches ago? Yeah, I wasn't referring to the league matchups whatsoever, I was talking about the play-in tournament section of the playoffs that took place last week. If you missed them and want to find out how Ariandel even made it into the playoffs, because 4th spot in the league did not guarantee you the slot, then definitely go watch what happened last week first, either on YouTube, on our YouTube channel, or in the Twitch VODs. I couldn't have stressed this enough in the past. From here on out, single elimination. No more second chances, and that is drastically different from previous seasons, if you remember, since we used to always have a higher and a lower bracket. But, ladies and gentlemen, that is not the only ace up the hole. We are upping the ante and open-handedly providing an alternative. Because you are absolutely right, single elimination is a bit short on the gameplay side. Even if we force teams to play best of 9s, I need you to be all ears and listen very carefully. Introducing best of 3, best of 5s. That's a lot of repetition in numbers, Mathis, and you're absolutely right, so let me break it down for you. Today, our teams will play a best of 5 and win a matchup point. Whoever collects 2 matchup points in a best of 3 fashion claims the ultimate victory and advances to the grand finals. And those other matchups will be tomorrow, so today, consider it the interlude. Right, part 1 of the formalities done, part 2, Talkshows and casters. If you weren't here last week, well, too bad, moving on. No, just kidding. I will briefly explain it once more. You have your 2 standard casters during every match, as always, and additionally, you will be accompanied by yours truly, as well as 2 analysts in between every match, going a bit more into detail about what the casters didn't have time for. You will be hearing our casters' voices once we load into match 1, who are Prion and Zach today, by the way. But for now, I get to introduce the lovely gentleman joining me during the talk shows. So, first of all, you know him, you love him. He was here for both qualifying matchups, casting and analyzing. One guy in the YouTube comments loves calling him DBDL and Outcast Wolf, but I've double checked and I'm pretty sure his name is in fact OutcastAndrew. Here we are, welcome in good sir. How are we feeling today?
Great, I'm awake, I'm ready to rock. I'm so excited. This is crazy. I actually was like coming into this going like, wait a minute, am I reading this right? Best of 3, best of 5s? That's crazy. There's so much DBD this weekend. It's wild. We're starting out with Invictus versus Nokron. This has the makings to be one of, if not the best matchups of the entire Season 10. I'm excited to be here, Mathis, and I'm excited to be manning the analyst desk here with you.
Fantastic, thank you very much. DBD galore, as you said. And secondly, we've also got a new voice for the playoffs, whom you have, however, definitely heard during the league. He's an active player and a streamer himself, and it was a blast to welcome him to the casting team. Introducing Flightless. How are you doing, legend?
Hello, Mathis. I'm doing okay today. You know, got some nice food, got my little snicky on my desk, and I'm ready to analyze these games like a professional.
Now that is a starter pack. Proper. Yeah. Well, as Andrew already introduced us, our first matchup today, Invictus versus Nokron. These 2 teams faced off in week 9 already, and remember, Invictus won 3-0. If we draw our conclusions just from this matchup alone, that would do unjust to the incredible streak Nokron led for most of the season. Therefore, let's actually jump into the stats that Toby has been collecting all season. We will be starting with Nokron, so need to redirect this immediately to Flightless. What have you got to say about Nokron so far?
Well, Nokron was doing really well at the start of the season. I remember, like they've gotten a lot of stages compared to most other teams. Like they've gotten a lot of good stats across the board. Like the fact that Zaka, like, he's gotten a total of 278 hook stages, and his average time for down is like sub 2 minutes. It's about 1 minute 55. So it's some pretty impressive stats, and like, of course, their survivor side also really good. You know, like, I believe their highest hook stages is sub 70. I believe it's 65, which across a lot of games is pretty impressive.
Yeah, especially since we had, as I said, that incredible streak by Nokron. They just would not lose. It was impressive. And many people have been praying for something to happen, and seems the prayers have been answered, and Nokron have effectively been cursed, since they did end up losing the previous 3 weeks. So they did not end up in the top spot any longer. But here we are. What they've done in the first, two-thirds of the season definitely suffice to make it, to secure their spot in the playoffs as the third. But yeah, going to our next team already. Andrew, we are going to be looking at Invictus' stats so far. The current ranked 1. So how do you feel about them?
Really interesting when you're looking at these two teams. For the first 6 weeks of the season, Nokron was the one getting all the attention, undefeated, but Invictus was silently stacking up the points on the leaderboard. Invictus did not lose a match this season. Nokron was 6-0. Invictus has 2 ties on the board and 7 wins, but they never actually got a loss. So they kind of quietly were inching up, and as soon as Nokron started to fall off, Invictus came in, and it's easy to see why. You're seeing the stats on the board there. We have our core 4 survivors in Spitz, Dan, Kexo, and Pedro. Rocket and Nightlight have each played 10 games each. When looking at the survivor side, we have a couple survivors, both Spitz and Kexo, over 60% survival rate, 61 and 66% for Spitz and Pedro respectively. And it's really interesting because while you've got on Nokron, we've got Zaka carrying the weight, we have multiple options for phenomenal killers on Invictus. Pedro and Nightlight, if you look at their stats, they almost are identical. Pedro's played 17 and Nightlight's played 14 matches, but their average first down rate is only 2 seconds off at around 1 minute and 21 seconds and 23 seconds. And also, their average hooks are some of the best in the league at over 10 hooks per game, 10 and a half if you even. Pedro is averaging 10.7 hooks per game, and Nightlight is averaging 10.6 hooks per game. So when you're looking at who's going to be killing, it doesn't matter whether it's Nightlight or Pedro. They're both coming for you. And the survivors, Spitz and Kexo, are getting out 2 out of 3 games. Kexo and Spitz are running out the door. Amazing stats. Obviously, they're racked up a little bit higher than Nokron was because of Nokron's last 3 weeks. But regardless of stats, regardless of any of that, the history, the skill, the killers and survivors, we're amped up for a great match today.
Yeah, I completely agree. With Invictus slowly creeping up as you described it, people usually always focus on who's at the top of the table, and we started disregarding Invictus sort of. People were saying Osaka has been playing incredibly so far, rightfully so. Again, they were undefeated for the longest time, and Invictus also drew against Sinners, putting them behind by at least 2 points there, and then all of a sudden they were very dominant first at the end of the season again. Now, one thing I really need to point out that I forgot to mention at the start, there is a slight advantage coming into the playoffs positioned first, being Invictus. They were actually able to pick their opponent for this first round, a pick they already made last weekend. So right after Ariandel were finished with Oracle, Invictus revealed their pick to us, being Nokron. Andrew, you already pointed out something about roster depth that I picked up from your speech just now, that, as you mentioned, Zaka plays all the killers, but there's a bit more variety on Invictus. What do you think? Why are Nokron the chosen ones here? Why did Invictus decide to roll with them? Is roster depth one of the answers? Is there more you would like to add?
I mean, honestly, it was an instant pick too. They had it sort of keyed up. They're like, if so-and-so wins, we're going to pick this. And if that wins, like based on last week's qualifiers. I think that I have no insight. I haven't spoken to anyone on Invictus, so I'm just gonna. This is pure like speculation. But if you look at exactly the way things are going, Invictus just beat Nokron, so they're coming off of a direct win. Nokron is on a losing streak. They won 6 in a row and lost 3 in a row. Cynic took first blood on them in week 7, and then they proceeded to lose to Elysium, who's also in the semifinals, and then lost to Invictus. So I think maybe they're kind of sensing some blood in the water, and they decided, you know what? I mean, also look at the history, right? You've got Zaka representing what used to be Team Eternal and whatnot. So I don't know whether it's like some friendly rivalry, some unfriendly rivalry, or just purely let's get them out of the way so then we can take the run of the tournament. I say that though, I'm not trying to discount the others, because one of the other tie that Invictus got was versus Elysium, so maybe they feel more confident against Nokron than one of the other teams. That's speculation, Mathis, but that's what I got.
Yeah, great. But yeah, very important points to keep in mind. Flightless, would you agree, or do you have anything else to add as well? We've been looking at, 1, roster depth, and 2 would be the fact they already won.
Yeah, to be honest, Nokron, they were looking so strong at the start. Like, obviously, like, the 6-0, very, very strong. Like, they were seen as, like, a super strong team when you had them first created with Zaka and Nightlight and everyone on that team together. But then, as soon as Nightlight left, people kind of started doubting Nokron, because Nightlight has a lot of those specialty killers, like Singularity or Nurse. So then having to put Zaka on those killers really made people start doubting them. Then they went 6-0, which was really impressive. And then towards the end, they started just giving away the sets a bit much. So I feel like people are still counting them out, as much as I hate to say it, which they obviously should not. I do think that Nokron has a decent chance at actually winning today versus Team Invictus. I don't think it's going to be easy by any means, but definitely they do have a shot.
I'm glad you mentioned the niche killers here that we've seen. That's a fantastic point to make. Since we've got more roster depth on Invictus, that also means they've got a larger palette when it comes to, the inventory of killers they can pick from, which Zaka might not be able to counter quite so well since he's been given sole responsibility. But yeah, we've been talking about the team so much. Why don't we also take a quick look at the killers that we'll be seeing today in this first best of 5? I'll quickly run through them, or actually I would like to preface this by going over what we had in week 9 first of all, to remind everybody what killers were played when that 3-0 happened. So we had Nokron pick Plague, Invictus picked Mastermind, and Nokron picked Clown. The 4th set would have been Ghoul by Invictus, but that never came to be. And the Mastermind and Clown sets, I'm looking at quite the stomp here. Plague was very close, but with Mastermind, we're looking at a 4K3 by Invictus and a 3 out on their Survivor side. And then on Clown, we had an Invictus 4K1 and another 3 out. So I can understand why Clown was avoided here at least, or I see why Mastermind would be picked again. And that Plague and Unknown combination we see again by Nokron. That's sort of been a very reoccurring theme. Flightless, do you have anything to comment on that? We've seen Plague and Unknown so much on Nokron. Is that consistency? Is that something you can imagine Zaka just likes? Or is there something else that I can't think of right now?
Well, one of the things is, like, Zaka is super well known at the start as a comp killer main, was his Oni. Like, his Oni was seen as, like, probably one of, if not the best. So
yeah, I remember that.
He was very well known for his Oni, but also his Plague. Like, his Plague is very good. He's a super good M1 killer, and Plague is pretty much purely M1. And also a super game sense killer. You cannot play Plague like you would Blight, where you can go around the entire map all at once. You have to actually play super tactical, and Zaka's really good at that. And also Unknown, he has a very high skill ceiling. He's one of my favorite killers to play. I main him, and I can say that there's a lot of things that you can do with him. So that also can bring out, like, the mechanical side of Zaka, which I assume Zaka will be playing Unknown for Team Nokron. And he also is a very, very big game sense killer. Same with Plague. So I feel like for them, having Zaka on the killer side makes any killer really dangerous, especially when they really benefit from really good 4v1 play, which is where Zaka just shines above most other players in comp right now.
Oh yeah, 100%. Zaka's got quite the interesting history. As someone personally who's been playing since 2021, I sort of watched him grow as well. He started playing for Eternity as a survivor. Then he was one of the first people to pick up Blight for comp. Nobody believed in him. Everybody doubted him. All of a sudden, he was the best player. And he made a similar transition on Oni. And he doesn't even play Blight anymore at all. So I'm really curious to see what in that first set is going to happen. And yeah, we're already loading in, actually. Andrew, have you got any finishing thoughts on that Mastermind pick that we are yet to comment on?
I mean, just that I love Mastermind. It's interesting because it's best of 5, so we're definitely going to see as far as 3. I really doubt we're going to see a sweep, but obviously it happened last week, so we'll have to see what happens. I believe the first match is Blight. Is that correct?
The first set, yes.
First set is Blight, so I'm excited. Blight Shuffle Pit. This is a classic comp match. I'm excited, and I can't wait to see what happens, and we can talk about it after the match.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And that being said, without any further ado, I would love to hand over to our caster team, Zach and Prion. Now, please, Prion, do take over.
All right, everybody. Good morning to North America. Good evening to those in Europe and other parts of the world. It's Prion here. Can't wait to be casting this match for you guys today. I'm not used to not doing the campfire chats, so this is definitely different. We are already loading in here to the trial here, Nokron versus Invictus, the match you've all come here to see, and we've already got Pedro making it all the way across the map with that 5 rushes, and he's immediately going to take the Shack pallet away. But before I get any further into that, I need to introduce my co-caster before a hit actually comes in. So Zach, how are you doing?
Yo, what is up, Brian? What is up, ladies and gentlemen? What an exciting day we have. What an exciting weekend. What an exciting, 2 weeks we've got ahead of us. Honestly, 9 weeks of league season have flown by, and it's just been such good fun. So, I mean, to come now to the semifinals, Invictus, Nokron, a matchup that I'm really excited for as well. And also, joined by one of the casters who are probably paired with the most, to be honest. So, excited to cast with you today, Prion. And Blight, of course, one of my favorite killers in the game, as well as one of my favorite sets to watch. And also just El Clasico, it's just one of those sets that just these players are so used to. So we're looking at a lot of high level gameplay here and a lot of punishing mistakes and stuff. So I'm looking forward to it, Prion.
Yeah, and speaking of punishing mistakes, we actually haven't had a hit yet, which is not normal for a Blight set here. Pedro, he's continuing to just kind of make his way around the map here, and right as I say that, Zaka is going to get found. We don't see exactly how that hit came in, but it did happen at a pallet gym here. Zaka is going to make it to this rock filler pallet here. Going to just drop that, and the Blight goes for the pallet break. Zaka here, he knows he's in trouble. Can't hold W away from this pallet. He's too zoned on the edge map, and the Blight is just too fast of a killer. So that's going to be the first down here for Pedro on the bottom side of the map near Shack. Survivors have made it to generators here, but there's not going to be too much progress coming in for this first hook.
Yeah, well, when we look at Blight downs, it really is, it's not just positional, but it's also kind of down to the Blight player, how many rushes they use, because this map is notoriously quite large, and Blight does have a lot of coverage on the map, but when you're looking at, positionally in a corner with no rushes left, it really is like an accumulation of these, small scenarios. If Zaka's going down in a corner and they're working a gen, or particularly
that was an extremely fast heal.
That was actually, yeah, it was the resurgence coming in actually onto Zaka there, allowing for a quick
oh wow,
Pedro! Oh my god, what a play from Zaka actually! Wow, that was insane. Very, very hard to do, especially against Pedro himself.
Yeah, denying that hit there is absolutely huge for Nokron. Getting Zaka healthy off the hook, and 5 rushes there, not resulting in an injury. And now the hit is going to come in onto Shen here, and he's going to be continuing to play for Zaka's life here. It's going to be Shen going down, but the survivors are completely fine with that. Pedro opting to slug here. He wants this tunnel out. It's pretty obvious. And he's actually going to find Zaka again. I'm curious why they continued to play that pallet gym with no pallet. Zaka making it over to another jungle gym, drops the pallet. Killer's going to go around the side, and that rush is going to connect there. Great bump logic out from Pedro there. Going to result in a second hook onto Zaka. And Shen here, you know he's going to be playing altruistically for Zaka here because he is the survivor with the deliverance build. So everything here for Nokron is going to rest on whether they can prevent this tunnel out from Zaka.
Yeah, we had a bit of a slow start, but now we've got second stage onto Zaka. Elimination approaching. 2 gens do pop in return for that. But now it's going to be a case of maybe protecting Zaka, trying to get down. It's really about the survivor progress in the time it takes for that first elimination to come through. So Pedro, actually very nice.
What a flick.
Yeah, what a flick around that corner, honestly. Catching Marcus, the game sense as well in the middle of the map to know someone's there and catching them off guard. Unuk does come through, and Zaka healed again already. That resurgence right now is protecting him so hard. That's actually the for the people that was used. But yeah, Zaka needs now to last. Ivan's going to be on the floor, so he's not going to be able to do anything now. We've got Shen and Marcus also facing injuries. So it could be very, very punishing for the survivors right now. And I can't imagine they'll get too much done. So in a bit of a sticky situation right now, Zaka really does need to last. They need to pick up Ivan and really kind of collect themselves. And Zaka's having a very good chase right now, winning these 50s, getting the pallet drops and vaults, timed perfectly. And he has this really strong rock here now to use, which is also going to...
he gets hit
through the pallet. The ping coming through. Shen working again in the background. Marcus about 10% through, so they've opting just to leave Ivan on the floor, and it's all really about how long Zaka's going to last. He will go down now eventually, but looks like they'll get down to 2 gens before that elimination comes through, Prion.
Yeah, Zaka was playing that so well before he got hit through that pallet, and that was such a bad time to take an M1 through a pallet as well, because that was his last filler pallet that he had to use in that area. So he basically wastes his entire injured speed boost there at the pallet, and is going to be eliminated from the trial here. That could have been a huge statement chase for Nokron, setting the tone in this game. But now it's going to be Marcos here in the 3v1 at this filler. Big swing and a big miss from Pedro there. That was definitely something. As Marcos continuing to play the non-pallet side of this geometry here. And just barely misses the flick there. I can't believe he even was able to fit himself in there, Zach. That was extremely close to being a hit. But now, in the 3v1, here, these survivors picking each other up, getting healed. This is where the game is going to slow down, but not for Pedro. He's able to find a hit onto Marcos, and he knows there's a reset going on, so he's immediately going to leave.
Absolutely. Marcos taking an injury there, and he's already down the other side of the map. And he gets a nice little S-flick around that rock, reading it so right. Ivan losing that 50-50, and Pedro's going to connect with that. And Pedro is a very good Blight. He hasn't had too many chances to play it so far in Season X, but from his streams, his ladder matches, he is very proficient in chase. It is definitely like a case of knowing the survivors you're playing against too. And at this level where you've got the 4 best teams, especially Invictus and Nokron, like these players are so used to playing against each other, not just in tournaments, but just outside of that. So Pedro just understands survivor movements, survivor habits, and it's really coming through in his Blight performance right now, as well as just the mechanics that he's got on this killer.
And let's take a second to explain why Pedro is not committing to a chase here, Zach. You just mentioned that Pedro knows a lot about survivor movements, and in this situation, Ivan's on the ground. He knows that he just hit the survivor that has the altruistic unhook build with overcome. And then, essentially, Pedro, he just knows that both of the survivors that he needs are on this bottom side of the map. So there's no reason for him to leave that middle side until he can actually secure a down for real, 100% guaranteed. So he's going to get the down onto Shen there, and now knows that a reset is going to be happening on the top side of the map. Ivan picked up here. He's got 1 rush left, barely gets that fatigue there. And he's just barely going to... Okay, actually, that must have been plot twist from Ivan, right? Because he just kind of went down.
Yeah, Ivan took in the first stage, and Pedro knows he's got time now, so opting to hook there and make it over to the bot side again, where Shen's just been picked up. So now this is quite bad because now Nokron can't really, unless it was unbreakable on Shen, Marcos is still somewhere on the map. But yeah, this is one of those situations where like Blight is a very punishing killer, and the animation actually looked a bit weird on my screen there. The swing came in through afterwards. And he's coming back to the top side now towards this hook, and he smells the rotation, which is actually happening. Just depends. Will he take a hit for this? No, he won't. So the unhook will come through for free. It's not going to be a trade, but it is Blight. It's quite a situation to be in for the survivors right now, Prion. What do you think?
This is more than likely going to be a 4K2 here for Invictus, because now he has to just make it down to that bottom side of the map. It's going to even desperately trying to pick up Shen in the corner. Actually, it looks like Pedro made the judgment, but he doesn't have time to, or maybe he thinks that he knew that Ivan was in plot twist and he finds him.
Oh my god.
No way, this is so bad. But he has his decisive strike. Ivan with the decisive strike and the plot twist combo. He's gonna have one more lease on life here at this filler pallet. Break going to come in there from Pedro, and this could be the final chase of the game here. Ivan is gonna make it back towards this middle area of the map, but this is a pallet gym with no pallet, Zach. I think it's probably as good as done here for Nokron. That is gonna be the 4K2 secured for Pedro and Team Invictus. A great start in this Blight set here. We knew that Shen had the Unbreakable, but it looks like it was used earlier. That is a once per trial perk. So overall, really strong performance from Pedro. This is what we expect to see from a S tier killer such as the Blight. And it's pretty clear why Invictus wanted to pick this set.
Yeah, the set was over so quickly, and let's talk about 4K2 for a second, because now this means that the reverse fixture is now going to need a 4K3 win condition, which is extremely hard to do, and it's really down to survivors. I mean, because you're expecting 4 kills on Blight, that's a given. I think that at this level, there really shouldn't be an excuse not to get those 4 kills, and it really depends on how many gens the survivors can actually complete. And 4K1 is a bit more favorable. When it comes to 4K2, it gets into that situation where it's a bit harder for the other side. So I think Pedro and Invictus are going to be quite happy with the fact that they at least, to tie, get 3 gens done, to win 4. Like, now they have a win condition that they can play to, and I think Pedro did really well.
Pedro did play extremely well here, and the reason why he's not picking up Shen here is because he knows that Deliverance perk is in play. He does not want to mess around with a survivor unhooking themselves here when, by all accounts, the game is over. So Shen going to be bleeding out on the floor there. That often happens to the Deliverance player in these S tier killer sets. So again, 4K2 out from Pedro. Going to be a really tough win condition for Nokron. Whoever is playing the Blight for them, they're not going to be able to hold a 3-gen at all. So as we didn't mention it here, but the perks, Call of Brine Eruption, it's definitely something we have not seen in a while. Maybe tells us that these killers might be going for a 3-gen playstyle, but that's just out the window when your win con is 4K3. So with that, we are going to start setting up the second side of this Blight set, but rather than throwing it to a break, I'm going to be throwing it over to our analyst desk. Mathis, take it away.
Thank you very much, Prion. 4K2, our final results. We've been thinking, we've been doing a lot of thinking before the stream as well, what would be expected of a Blight. We've been arguing anything between 4K1 to 4K3 with our current balancing at least. And 4K2 therefore could be considered middle of the road, but we'll have to see with the second matchup. If we see a 4K4, then 4K3 all of a sudden becomes middle of the road. So yeah, with Infectious Fright as well, very interesting pick. First thing I really want to talk about, I'm very glad that Prion mentioned it as well at the end there. Eruption Call of Brine. Andrew, you've been here last week with me as well. Is that the new meta? After that Call of Brine buff recently that bumped it up to 150% regression once again. We've been seeing that almost every time, and not just by Bubbo.
Seems like with the buff to Call of Brine, it is valid again. It is once again, it's reasonable to run it. Being only 125 before, it just didn't seem like you got enough bang for your buck. But 150 seems to be doing it. You get that extra aggression. Well, I gotta say also when you're playing a killer like the Blight, where I mean we saw it after that tunnel out on Zaka, we were bouncing back and forth. Basically, the survivors were in constant triage mode, so there wasn't a whole lot of gen progress to be spoken of, which means that every single kick you're going to get that extra 50% regression from Call of Brine. And then when you do get the downs, we did see an eruption come in there at one point. So eruptions, nothing new from eruption, but yeah, Call of Brine definitely a really good pick there. Before we head back real quick and we pass it over to Flightless there too, I want to say interesting note. Shen was in this match. That was Shen's second match of the season. Zynox was not in. I don't know if that means that's going to be a particular roster change for the day or just because of the Blight set, but I thought I'd point that out.
Oh yeah, you're completely right. We haven't seen him for quite a while. Flightless, I want to talk to you about something that Pedro did during chases quite a lot, that I saw him at least do it twice here. Zaka, when he was being tunneled out, was injured on his death hook in chase. He got hit by his own medicine there, because that's something I typically only see from Zaka. Pedro randomly short-lunged through the pallet that Zaka was camping. And he did that a couple times. Is that something you see a lot recently, or is that something you use even? What's the decision-making there, do you think?
So, short swinging, it's when you lunge, your weapon is actually the hitbox of the lunge. So, it actually will follow it as the animation plays, both on the survivor and killer side. So that's why if the killer is super close, the animation kind of ends a bit sooner whenever you lunge. So if you just short swing, it ends the animation quicker, which technically puts the weapon further, which means the hitbox is extended, which means that it's more likely to hit through the pallet. And it's usually used if like you want to, one, force down the pallet, and two, try to get a hit. So like you're getting the pallet down regardless, so you may as well try to get a hit when doing that. Another thing I want to point out that Andrew didn't touch on is typically you've been seeing like pop eruption, which is new for Blight, which is a new selection for Blight, because you don't really see that anymore, since with S tiers the main strategy is to get the tunnel out and then 3-man slug afterwards, which is why you see eruption, and which is great for downs. You see Call of Brine, which you don't need a hook for, and you have Infectious to help with the slugs. So I feel like that is the new strategy, and it worked out really well for Pedro. So I'm excited to see what Zaka's going to do now too.
Yeah, thank you very much for your insights. We're already in game number 2. So, Zach, please move on.
Absolutely. Straight back into the action. We now have Zaka heading into the bot side with the corrupt intervention. And notice the perks that you had a little discussion about. Our analysts Call of Brine eruption coming in for Zaka as well. So if that does not speak to maybe a new meta, maybe a new kind of direction for Blight in general, potentially for gen management, that could be an interesting thing to see in future matches. But yeah, checking lockers in this corrupt zone, trying to see if there's a survivor in this area. Of course, the survivors do spawn up there, and it's about stealthing and trying to get that rotation without the Blight seeing you. Denying that early game hit is important, but Kexo's been found now. This filler pallet by Shaq is a little bit safe, but look at this. Look at these rushes, and he gets a crouch, and Kexo dodging out Zaka now does make Shaq has the safety of the window if he opts to use it. Does have overcome. There's no light going to be coming through. We make it to the inside of the shack, and Kexo does have this filler that he can go back to. So nice chase coming in from Kexo at the start. This is huge. He's made it to 2 areas of safety now. There's maybe a hit coming through. Yeah, that is going to be coming through. Does have this filler rock now, this god rock to use. Maybe coming to chase end soon here. Oh, and he just swings through it. What a tank Zaka is. That's Kexo going down. And probably could have been faster.
Yeah, honestly, Zach, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was actually Zaka knowing how Kexo plays there. I mean, Kexo was totally zoned edge map there. And I guess it's kind of a player personality thing. Do you just drop the pallet and go corner? Or do you try to make a little bit more out of that pallet? And Zaka, he guessed correctly as Kexo runs through the pallet and gets punished for it there. But hey, that pallet is still there to be used later. That was a pretty great first chase from Kexo, though. Already good time being made by Invictus. But now the gen kicking perks are going to start to become important, as they really weren't last game. There was not a lot of gen kicking going on from Pedro at all, despite the build. So now Kexo immediately healed off the hook with that resurgence. We saw he had it in the first chase. Not going to be any dead hard or decisive strike coming out from Pedro or from Kexo, but that resurgence is really important for when the killer isn't super close to the hook. And now Zaka, he's suspicious that somebody is stealthing around here, and 2 gens pop, but he is going to find his potential tunnel out here. Kexo going to take that first hit with only 2 rushes. He's got overcome, but he's going to find it hard to make distance here as the rushes are already coming back. First rush coming in, and that's a nice body block from Dan, just perfectly fitting himself in there, forcing Zaka to waste more rushes as Kexo makes it further and further towards the main building here. He's got another nice rock filler. Gonna vault it once, vault it twice. These pallets are usually safe against an M1 killer, but actually it looks like Zaka has gotten a little bit lost here, Zach. This chase is continuing towards the main building. If Kexo can make it to that strong pallet or window, it's gonna be really bad for Nokron.
Yeah, absolutely. The more distance he makes and the closer he gets to main building, there's more chances for hit tanks and more chances for Kexo to get to safety. Does have this pretty unsafe pallet though, so yeah, the down does come through eventually, but that was Kexo going from basically the very bottom of the map all the way to that filler pallet by main. Look at the distance that they managed to secure for him. And 2 gens popping in the meantime, that bought so much time for Invictus survivors to try and pump out these generators. Of course, Dan going for the unhook there would tell me that maybe he's the Deli survivor. And did he plot twist there? Oh, he's trying to force the pick. Yeah, he is. That's quite smart.
Yeah, so Dan forces the pickup with the plot twist because he knows that now if Zaka doesn't pick him up, he gets up healthy for free. And he forces the plot twist at the exact same time that Kexo is unhooked to make it impossible for Zaka to get back and tunnel Kexo out. It's going to be another resurgence heal onto Kexo. And now that is just like the possibility of the tunnel out completely gone for Zaka. Additionally, Dan is most likely the deliverance survivor there hooked in the basement. And the win condition is 4K3 with significant progress on multiple generators. It is going to take a miracle here for Zaka.
Yeah, find spits at this pallet gym here. It's going to need a lot of work and a lot of pressure, maybe trying to spread injuries, but these survivors are playing so safe. Dan's going to use the deliverance out of basement, and Zaka doesn't seem like he wants to commit. But yeah, like you said, the elimination is just like completely out the window, and in a blight that you really need to, especially when you're faced with a 4K3 win con. It is, I mean, he does find Dan, yeah, eventually, but that's only a second stage for Dan, and that's another gen popped. So, high condition, secured. No chance for Nokron to win this. Either it's a tie or a win for Invictus. And,
yeah, that is the tie condition met there for Invictus. And that is the win condition met for Invictus there. Nicely done from them. It's going to be 1-0 in favor of Invictus here. And what was honestly so far a dominant survivor performance on this Blight round. Zaka just couldn't get anything started here. And just look at that. Pedro, he knows 100% sure that that chase is not going to be committed to, so he just starts medkit healing in Zaka's face.
Before Zaka even looks away.
You see every day. Yeah, before he even rushes away. As now it's going to be Zaka trying to shift his tunnel out target onto Dan. Not that it matters for the result of this match, as those 2 survivors are going to make it all the way over to the main building with only 1 generator to go here and 4 survivors alive. Very likely that Invictus is going to be able to get this last gen done. Nice firecracker there out from Spitz to try to confuse. Still going to get hit, but he forced Zaka to use more rushes than he would have otherwise. There's a little bit of a 3-gen here. So we might actually start seeing the perks do some work, as it seems like Invictus is content to play this slow, get their resets down, and they don't want to just go for this last gen too quickly and possibly end up giving over a 4K. Invictus wants to make a statement here. They want to get outs against this S-tier killer that usually 4Ks and carry that momentum into our next set.
Absolutely. And one observation I made for Invictus is that they seem to be kind of it's only really the survivors that have hook stages that Zaka seems to be running into. If you notice that Spitz and Pedro, like, we haven't really seen them too much, and I think that's intentional. Like, going in for body blocks on the survivors that really aren't going to be rewarding for Zaka to even hook, and it's essentially forcing Zaka to kind of focus between two survivors that really don't give him much value. Of course, losing out on that tunnel out was huge, but yeah, like, they're making all the right moves, Invictus. I feel like it's such good survivor play, and you can just tell that these guys know what they're doing. And in basically every scenario, does actually spout Spitz and gets hit over the window, not quite making that, unfortunately, but doesn't want to commit. Actually, sees someone up on this hill, maybe out balanced landing survivor. It's going to be Pedro, and just the indecision right now from Zaka to commit to someone, I feel like it's really going to punish him. I do feel like he needs maybe someone out of the trial, but look, he just it's just the survivors. I think that they are really playing this super well, and Zaka's struggling a little bit. Prion.
And this is Invictus's pick, so of course they're going to be extremely confident in chase against the Blight here. But just the level of like mind games and just kind of minuscule dodges and jukes that we're seeing from these survivors are really impressive here. Dan gonna take a hit. I believe Dan is dead on hook, and that's going to be the police escort for Dan over towards the main building. Hexo here for a body block, also going to take a hit. And now, does Dan actually make it anywhere with that? He doesn't think he does, so he's just gonna break off and eventually go down here. That's gonna be eruption on all of the generators over by that shack. Seems like the pressure is not being spread. They're just opting to double that shack gen here. And now, you might wonder why Spitz is breaking away from the gen. He wants to distract Zaka here and make him think they're splitting gens, but Zaka knows better. He knows that Pedro here is going to be working that gen, going to take the time to get another kick on it and set up that regression for later. Pedro here, though, he's got a very strong chase build here. Rush is coming out. Going to go around the window side of the shack, and Pedro, smart pathing there. He's using that lithe to hold W and completely misses out on those 5 rushes. It's going to be a lot of time bought for him here, but unfortunately, Zach, he's caught in the area where the gens are being done. So actually going to be Zaka leaving. Interesting.
Yeah, if he wants to protect this, I mean, he has this nice 3-gen on the bot side, so it's going to be quite hard for the survivors to break, at least, given that I don't think there's been too many regression events so far, so Zach is going to be able to slow this game down, but he has this internal clock kind of running now for these gens. He knows what Spitz was, he knows what gen that Spitz is working, and the fact that Pedro wasn't really taking any form of pressure in injuries or whatever.
It's got the Z-wall here, very important.
Yeah, the strongest tile in the game, at least for where Spitz is concerned, and he is going to go down, eruption procking, and we have an infectious proc on that bot mid generator too, so good information for Zaka now. This hook is going to be right in the middle of this 3-gen, so this is quite positionally worrying for the survivors.
Yeah, Zaka going to take that hook in probably the best possible place he could have it. And we said earlier, Zach, that there was a little bit of a 3-gen. This is actually a lot of 3-gen, as there was a 4-gen in play before with that other gen over to the left that was completed by the survivors for the win condition. Going to be Vault coming out from Pedro, and the regression events are starting to stack up on this shack and hill gen. And that is actually going to be Kexo finishing the last gen, the one that I guess Zaka just didn't think they were doing. And this is going to be potential outs here for Invictus. Like I said before, they really want to make a statement in this S tier set. Vault coming out there from Pedro, going to make it back into the shack here. And Zaka barely going to get that with the final rush. Infectious Fright going to reveal a survivor over towards the middle of the map. And it looks like Zaka is just going to be taking the fresh hook here, putting Pedro in the basement, but Invictus is going to be very happy with that. 1-0 in this best of 5, as we see the dead hard out the door for Spitz. Very strong. Definitely making a statement here is Invictus, as we're going to be going into set 2, which is going to be Nokron's pick here. And if you are Nokron here, I'm sure our analysts are going to talk about it. once we go over back to them. But you really need to dig your heels in here now if you're Nokron. You don't want to go down to match point here going into set 3. So you really got to lock in for set 2. Just reset your mental game. Make sure you have a strong performance in this second set. And keep yourself in this game, because these best of 5s can really spiral out of control quickly if you're not prepared to play from behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that it's probably a point our analysts can touch on, but mentality is so important for these sets, especially when the stakes are higher. Of course, during the league season, it was a bit more chilled out, but yeah, I feel like every bad game, it needs to be kind of like, they can't let it get to them. Otherwise, the play styles suffer, the strategies, they can't really enact them. But yeah, I've been impressed with what I've seen so far, at least on the Invictus side. And Nokron are going to need a good set next time. But let me hand it over to our analyst desk for a breakdown of that last match whilst we set up the next lobby.
Yes, thank you very much, Zach. Well, the result that Zaka just faced is certainly not what you want. It spiraled out of control very, very quickly, unfortunately. We sort of got a very good taste of it the moment we saw Kexo flare his Zaka's very first attempt to land a hit. That was really unfortunate. We got to see the exact same build in action twice, that Corrupt Eruption, Call of Brine, and Infectious Fright. And yeah, Flightless, I want to redirect this question to you. What do you see happening with Infectious Fright? You know, we've talked about Eruption and Call of Brine already sufficiently in the previous talk show, but that Infectious Fright, that I kind of glossed over. So how great do you see that on Blight, since we just saw it back to back? Is that justified?
Of course. Recently with Blight and Billy, their tear radius was actually upped from 32 meters to 40 meters, which means obviously Infectious procs whenever a survivor is downed and other survivors are within that tear radius. So the bigger the tear radius, the more area you cover with Infectious. And like I said, the current meta with killers like Blight and Nurse is to try to get the 3v1 as quickly as possible and then get the slugs after that. So Infectious really helps. You counter stealthing, you counter people trying to work on gens, and it forces survivors to play around it. That's another thing. It forces survivors to, I don't want to give this killer info, let me stealth in this spot, which is worse for me, for Chase. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It's nowadays, I've seen that with Nurse happening more and more, that once you're in that 3v1 scenario, the gens become, or the Bloons Tower Defense enjoyers out there, impoppable. There's no way you progress any further if you're 3 people against Blight on Nurse, because they're just all over. Ghoul is getting in that direction as well. I feel like Hillbilly's the only one that could struggle a bit, because he's not as, or cannot compare in Chase to those other 3. But yeah, that's already going to conclude set number 1 with the Blight Invictus with a very dominant performance. And our next will be Unknown. Andrew, is there anything you would like to say before we go into the set?
Yeah, I mean, what a wild match for Blight there. It seemed like there's back and forth in both ways, but moving on. We're moving fast. I want to make a really, really quick note about Unknown. It's really interesting looking at the statistics for Season 10. This is the second most played set, just below Artist. There have been 30 Artist matches and 28 Unknown matches. I have cast many Unknown matches this season, and a lot of the comments we make as casters is, well, we don't really see a lot of 4Ks on Unknown. People have figured them out. I just want to throw that out. That may have been true prior to Season 10. There's a 40% 4K rate for the Unknown. So this is a set that most teams have played significantly, like multiple times. And as we were talking beforehand, this seems to be one of Zaka's favorites. So hopefully Zaka can put up a good performance, and we can see maybe a comeback here for Team Nokron to put us to tie it up and really make a competition of it today, Mathis.
Thank you very much, very, very much. We're already loading into this set, so I would love to hand it back over to Prion.
Thank you so much, Mathis. It is exciting to be casting another Unknown set here. I know Flightless said that he's an Unknown main. I am also an Unknown main. We have a lot of Unknown mains here at DBDLeague. He's one of my top 3 killers. So fun and such a high skill ceiling, but also so stressful and frustrating to play. And that's when we end up seeing those crazy results here for the survivors in DBDLeague. So Zaka here on the Unknown. He's got Pain Res, Eruption, Brutal Strength, and Corrupt. Pretty strong build, all things considered. And that's going to be a first weakened landed onto Pedro there. Going to drop the pallet, and he's actually going to lose the mind game there. Possibly getting hit with the UVX, but no, he just runs directly into Zaka and is able to remove his weakened. That is so frustrating on the killer side. And the reason that happens is because the Unknown can't actually look directly down when he's channeling UVX. So Pedro going to be continuing this chase here at the shack, around the backside of the shack here, making more distance. Will he play the window or the pallet here? This is definitely a really strong place to chase for Invictus, but the only main problem with this is he's going to be a little bit close to all of the generators as long as he's playing this shack. So not going to be a good death spot if he dies there, but it looks like Zaka is actually going to leave.
Yeah, really good chase there from Pedro, forcing the M1 and also giving himself distance to Shack. And Zaka, forced to leave, has this gen pretty close. We do have corrupt intervention, only about 25% of that left. Kexo's going to take the UVX infection, and we need to be starting to see it down here. Going over to the fun bus, pretty strong area in terms of the map itself. But nice dodge out there from Kexo, and now he clears the UVX out. So this is going to be an multiplier or another infection coming through. Infection does come through. Kexo does have the safety of this pattern. And this is back to mind games. Nice TP, actually. That's probably going to secure an injury. No, he manages to dodge out. But the M1 tag over the window. Not enough time to make it over that. One gen does pop in the distance. And does it look like Zaka wants to commit this? It does look like he wants this down. But without the infection, this is a very slow start to the game for Zaka. He's going to need to build up that pressure after this first down comes through. Does he have this pallet for safety? Nice fake from Kexo. And the TP as well, he dodges out on. This is just insane chase from these survivors. Back to back, Pedro and Kexo, showing what they can do. And Zaka is struggling, Prion.
Yeah, this is starting to look like me when I played Unknown into Angels' Survivor win streak. As Kexo going to finally go down here. It's going to be 3 gens popped for Invictus. And first pickup coming in. This is definitely not what you want to see for the Unknown, but it's also not too... And there's a survivor camping the shack pallet. He can't even get basement or a pain res here. This is extremely good for fans of Invictus here, as now there's a hook in the middle of the map. It's not a pain res hook. There's not too much gen progress anywhere, as the teleport is going to come in onto Pedro. This is still salvageable for Zaka. He just needs a lot to go right for him here. He can't miss these UVX shots anymore, as there's actually only one survivor with significant progress on a gen here. If you're Zaka, I feel like it's not a good idea to hard camp this hook, because there's 3 survivors up, only 2 gens to go. It's going to be pretty easy for Invictus to just crank the gens here. And that is going to be the unhook for free onto Pedro. I mean, in exchange for 1 hit, but it's not a trade, and that's really important for Invictus here. Zaka now chasing onto Pedro at the shack. The hallucination right there, and actually he's not going to teleport to it, instead causing Pedro to lose distance there, thinking that he would teleport. And this might actually get him enough distance for the down. No, he's actually going to go for the UVX shot instead. So chase continuing here on this filler pallet. Remember, 2 gens are going to be cranked in the background while the chase is happening. UVX channeled here, and he removes the weekend at the last second. Oh, Zach, this is like every painful Unknown moment I've ever had just on the screen right now. It's honestly traumatic for me, as he's going to remove the weekend again at the last second, right as the shot comes in. It's just everything is coming up right for Invictus here.
This is just absolute dominance by Invictus, to be honest. Zaka cannot do anything really against these. Like, the survivor micro play, like, against this specific killer is just so practiced and so impressive to see. And it's just the pallet hits that keep coming through. That's 2 in a row now. Unfortunate coming through. Dan's going to take an injury, but yeah, it just doesn't seem like the survivors are really letting him get pressure. And also just in general for the chase. That is going to be a down onto Dan. And we do have a Scorch Hook here to deny some of the progression on this last generator is a chance for Zaka to recover a little bit. But it might even hit this time. I'm not even sure if it was... Oh, he's dropping? Oh, he wants to kick. Okay. Just taking the extra time to apply Eruption there. Maybe so that he secures the pain res on the map, on the gen across the map, potentially Prion. I'm not sure what the decision making was there. But first, well, another hook on the board, a bit of regression secured, so Zaka can rest a little bit easier now. But yeah, he's got a long way to go before he's back in this match.
Yeah, and you see there, he tries to go for a cute little UVX shot there onto Pedro. Actually lands the weakened there. That was a pretty good shot. But the second that you even pull up that UVX, the survivors, they just start ducking and dodging and leaving the tile, and it is so hard to hit those on the Unknown. It's, honestly, I would wager to say that the Unknown is the hardest killer in the entire game. Because the UVX is relatively easy to dodge for good survivors, and the Unknown is so heavily punished for missing it, as that's going to be the final gen completed already here for Invictus. Only 2 stages on the board for Zaka so far. He's really going to want to get Kexo. Actually, no, these are both of his non-fresh hooks. So I guess Zaka going to be looking for just about anybody here. Kexo's going to take the M1 here. Dan staying here in the corner. But it looks like, yeah, he's going to commit to just Dan in the corner. And if he gets this kill onto Dan, that's only going to be 4 stages for him here. And you can probably bet that against the Unknown, Invictus is going to be very invested in getting a 4 out. I would not be surprised if we see some altruistic survivor play coming in here. As a teleport going to come in. Can he get the body block in time? No, Pedro just barely not able to do it. It's going to be the pickup coming in here for Zaka. Going to secure another hook stage, because that was very close there for Pedro. Just barely not able to get in front of that lunge. But now, 3rd hook stage coming in for Zaka, and you know these survivors are assembling. They only want 3 stages to go down in this match.
Yeah, like, sort of lurking in the area. They're not... Looks like they are positioning themselves kind of close. Yeah, like they're splitting the map. Do they want to? I guess it remains to be seen, but... I mean, 4 stages is still a decent result. But 3 would be even better. Pedro cleansing the hallucinations. Zaka trying to apply UVX. Of course, UVX makes it very hard to save. And yeah, it does look like they want to converge on this for this save. Pedro... no, it was Spitz. It was Spitz getting that gate ready, and now Kexo and Pedro. It would be ideal if Kexo takes this unhook.
He hits the hook survivor.
Oh my god! Wait, so he completely misses both survivors. So now this is definitely an escape. There wasn't even a chance for a trade because of that, and unfortunately, Zaka is only getting 3 stages in this trial. That is an absolute diabolical result.
Yeah,
it is not something that you want. It's not something that you want at all.
Definitely disappointing, but it is not out of the ordinary whatsoever for this killer. Definitely the killer that has been bullied the most in DBDLeague, I think, out of all of them. And it's just apparent from the incredible survivor play of Invictus here. They have this Unknown chase down to a science. It is definitely one of the most fun chases to do in the game, in my opinion, but when you've got all of these survivors here that are just insane at dodging, have incredible pathing, coordinated altruistic play, they are efficient on the generators, it is not going to be a good time for the Unknown. So with that, we're going to be flipping the sides here, sending it back over to the analyst desk, and this could turn out to be a very interesting match, because I know that both of these survivor teams are extremely good against the Unknown. So analysts, what do you guys think?
3 stages with Unknown. As Zach said, diabolical, petrifying even. It is, however, I must confess, a game more in line with what we've seen for the majority of DBDLeague. Do not be fooled by the more recent results of Unknown, where we have seen 4Ks 2, 4Ks 3, somehow. That's... Balancing on this killer is something we need to review quite a lot after this season, is what I can promise. But yeah, and then 3 stages, but very difficult end game. Yeah, Andrew, is there something you want to comment on with that end game? A lot went south as we were watching.
I gotta say, like, there's some amazing chases that match. I gotta say, specifically Kexo at the bus when we were like point blank range, already weakened, and the UVX missed. But that probably had a pretty game changing situation because it delayed that first down for even longer. And that end game, I was thinking in my head, I was like, okay, four stages is a really good thing, and they started coming back in. I'm like, things can go really south if you all get nailed with the UVX and try and get out. And I was wondering if maybe Invictus was getting a little bit cocky with how the game was going, but they pulled it off. So what do I know? They did it. Like I thought that there was a world there where Zaka got more stages because they went for that saving one hook, but they got it out. So good on them.
That was really impressive. And another thing I really want to ask you about Flightless as well is, we saw in the middle of the game, I think it was Pedro blocking Shack Pallet so that Zaka couldn't get basement. I want to argue that that's a blessing in disguise, because Zaka was forced to go for pain res, and in the past we've seen him prioritize basement over pain res, and then he never got any value from it. What do you think would have helped him there more?
Honestly, I think the basement probably would have helped him a bit more because, yeah, you can get pain res and you get that 20% regression, but basement makes it a lot more dangerous for saves, which can equal more stages in the end. Because although Unknown is seen as like the harmless killer, as everybody calls him, like in basement, it's almost impossible to dodge the UVX. So as long as Zaka didn't mess up there, it was almost a free trade, and even could have ended up with them both dead if the survivors messed up. So Pedro blocking that pallet really, like, it gave Zaka pain res, but it also took away a lot of pressure that he could have had.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much. It's always really difficult to decide whether you should go for basement, as you described, especially with Unknown, because he's one of the stronger killers when it comes to playing around basement. But that pain res, you can't let go of that value either, and we've seen so many games where killers didn't even get a single use of it. And I'm glad Zaka at least got that out of that exchange. But here we are already in match 2, back with Invictus on killer. Please, Zach, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mathis, and thank you to the analysts for that amazing breakdown. We've now got Nightlight playing for his team, 4-stage win condition. And if you're Nightlight, that is something that you can be pretty happy about. We're seeing a Bamboozle and Brutal coming through, so a couple of chase perks in combination with a bit of slowdown. It's a bit of a dynamic build, which is going to help him actually get those stages, to be honest. And Bobo now, first in chase, is going to eat that UVX as we chase around this pallet gym. Pallet is going to get dropped. And an insta-break coming through there, getting value from the Brutal Strength. And nice dodge coming out, but I think he thought the window was that side. Going around the backside of Shack. That is going to be Shack pallet dropped immediately. And this is quite a few pallets dropped so far already. Bobo's going to be having a bit of danger soon when he makes it into this deep pocket of the map. And still no injury on the board. Coming through. And yeah, this is a good chase from Bobo, to be honest. Has made relatively safe decisions coming through. And I feel like this early game chase is what Nokron need to be able to try and even match that that result that was set last game by the Invictus survivors. And so Bobo doing well for his team. Does get rid of the UVX, and it's not going to secure an injury as he vaults over that pallet. Doesn't have a pallet here on this dumpster filler. So it's going to be opting to run around. Maybe an injury, but no. Dodging out again, forcing the M1 and clears the UVX. One gen done through corrupt Prion. This is a great early game for Nokron.
This is the early game that you need if you are Nokron here. Your win con is only giving up 2 stages. So Vabo here having a really good first chase to start. And honestly, as this first chase continues, he knows there's a hallucination there. He has to double back, which means that he's going to go towards the Bamboozle. It's going to be UVX channeled for Nightlight, and Vabo finally out of places to go. Going to go down to the UVX shot there. And this is going to be a pain res. I honestly don't hate this build for Nightlight at all. I think Brutal Bam is actually quite a good idea on the Unknown. Just perks that make your chase stronger on a killer that is notorious for getting bullied. That's going to be Zaka here taking the UVX injury there. He did the gen in Nightlight's face, and it might come back to cost him here as Vabo is going to be unhooked. Zaka removing his weakened here, continuing in chase here. He's over by the edge of the map here, making it to the bus. He's going to make the pallet as well. Not able to dodge out on that weakened effect, but he is still going to be standing as a body block comes in from Marcos. These are the types of altruistic plays we're going to need. The UVX coming out again, and he's going to get downed there. Nightlight predicting where he would be, and that was a really nice, safe shot from Nightlight, because if Zaka takes that wide and dodges the UVX, he's zoned to the point where he would get M1 before he makes that bus pallet. So that's going to be the second hook stage for Nightlight. So any next hook is going to be the tie condition for Nightlight, I believe. Actually, any fresh hook, I believe, would be a win for Nightlight here, because there were only two fresh survivors in Zaka's game. So Vabo here would be a tie. Marcos or Ivan would be a win for Invictus. So Vabo here in chase out this jungle gym. He's gonna have to dodge the UVX here. Not going to be able to do it, and he goes down right to the next to the hook as well. Zach, it's not looking good here for Nokron.
No, we had such a strong early game, and unfortunately, Nightlight was able to kind of snowball that first hook, especially after Zach had completed that gen and applied the UVX to himself, which actually turned that M2 into an injury rather than an infection. And then that fun bus chase, it was such a short second chase now that there was no time for reset. And when you're Nokron, you have to figure, like, you have to think, like, do we go for resets, slow down the gems, or do we focus on the generators and play a little bit more aggressive towards this this gameplay? It's such a difficult like decision-making process when you have low stage results like this. I do have to feel for Nokron, like, in that decision-making, but yeah, it's a bit unfortunate. I mean, that's at least the tie now secured for Invictus, but with 2 gens left to go, still got 2 injuries on the board. It is pretty dicey, to be honest.
And Nokron now needs to finish both of these gens and not give up a single hook stage if they want to take this win. It's going to be Vabo here playing the bus, and he's just going to go down. Nice swing there from Nightlight. A little bit of a misplay on that pallet, and this hook is going to be the win condition for Invictus. So I guess I'd better see some body blocks coming in here from Nokron. They want to stay in this game. Looks like they've resigned themselves to their fate, and that is going to be the win for Invictus in the unknown set. Definitely not good news for Nokron, as this was their pick, and in relatively an easy manner, Nightlight is able to take this win here on the unknown. But it really just comes down to Invictus's survivor play once again. When you've got multiple survivors on your team with 60 to 70% escape rates, it's no secret that these guys are some of the best we have here in DBDLeague.
Yeah, I think it's quite easy to when we have like matches like this where we obviously are comparing the scores. Of course, it can really speak to performances, but if Nokron can get a good result and just feel good off the back of this game itself, it might help them, like, mindset wise going into the next 2 sets. Of course, taking the 2-0 so early in on, at the very first 2 sets is rough, but a good survivor performance now might be what they need to sort of kind of catapult them into that next set for a bit of a reset, bit of a reshuffle of their team. And nice dodge out from Marcos. Bob is dead, and we still have Zaka injured on elimination hook. And yeah, they were working those last 2 generators. Marcos obviously has been interrupted now as we go into chase, but hasn't taken an injury yet, so this is quite good. It's going to give them a chance to get the last 2 gens done, and Ivan and Zaka are now splitting those 2. TP coming through. Marcos redirects his pathing away from it, and just have this pallet for safety. This is a good chase from Marcos, exactly what they need to get into the end game. And what I was saying, for them to feel good about getting a decent survival result despite losing this.
Yeah, Marcos still alive in chase here, as the final gen is going to be popped by Zaka. He needs to dodge one more UVX blast here. Not going to be able to do it though, as good aim from Nightlight, as it's going to be a fresh hook secured for Nightlight. taking him over towards this door, thinks he can stop it before it opens. Ivan is on the door here, but he's not going to be able to stop it from opening. It's going to be Zaka getting that unhook onto Marcos. Ivan in the gate wasting some time as the injured survivor is going for the hatch here. And now actually, okay, I mean, the game is a foregone conclusion here, so Nightlight just wanted to see if he could make a funny teleport cutoff. Zaka just going to double back into the exit gate, secure the 3 out against the Unknown here. And that was a much more expected Unknown result here from Nightlight. He had some good shots. Overall, good survivor play from Nokron, just not enough to match the insane result from Invictus's survivors. And that's going to be putting them up 2-0 in this series. Match point now for Invictus. Backs against the wall for Nokron to do or die here. So going to be sending it back over to our analysts here to talk about what will potentially be our final match of this set.
Thank you very much, Prion. But before we move on, there's a couple of things that need to be addressed about this second installment of today's Unknown matches. So yeah, as you said, or as we clearly viewed as well, we're currently standing at a 2-0. And I really, really want to highlight Nightlight's build here. I thought that is absolutely brilliant and something I did not expect to see on Unknown. So, Flightless, to reiterate what we've just seen on the build side, Bamboozle and Brutal, double chase perks in combination also with that add-on, the front page article, which I thought was really endearing. So to anyone who is not familiar with all of the Unknown perks add-ons, which I assume hardly anyone is, so that add-on reduces the spawn timer of your next hallucination by 50% after breaking a pallet or a breakable wall. So we see the synergy there with Brutal, with the Brutal Strength. Flightless, what do you think about those 3 features in tandem?
Well, everyone has been calling Unknown the harmless killer for so long now because he's extremely jukeable and like on paper he has really good chase, but like just the numbers don't match up. So Nightlight thought, okay, I'm just going to bring 2 really good chase perks to shut down as many loops as I can so that they can't chase me, or they can't loop me for as long, and also bring an add-on that will synergize with Brutal and also give me a bit more map pressure with his teleports. So it was a good combo, and it very clearly worked out for him, being able to get as many stages as he did.
Yeah, I really loved seeing him played more dynamically, especially with the more hallucinations available. It almost reminds me of the Springtrap sets we saw last week. I love killers that can be all over the map. I really do, because it incentivizes that meta gameplay so much more. And Andrew, you were the one who wanted to talk about the Unknown stats before we went into the set. Where do these 2 matches stand overall?
Oh, sometimes they 4K. No, I mean, when you're talking about the 2 of the best teams in the whole world, I guess I'm not too surprised we got 6 hooks versus 3 hooks. I gotta say, this is turning out to be one of those ones where, like, you know, Zaka was trying to keep the Blight set at 4K2, wasn't managed to keep it. Was trying to keep it 3 hooks, wasn't able to keep it. Like right now, Invictus is up 2-0, but Nokron isn't making bad plays in general. I am interested to see how things are going to go with this next Mastermind play. Interesting to note again, I want to throw out that was Vabo in that last match. Vabo's second game. I'm watching all the stuff. That was Vabo's second game of the season as well. Did really well in the first chase as well. Ended up being the tunnel out, but so it happens. I want to a little bit look into the future here as we're loading into the next match here, Mathis. We do see the standard 4 from Nokron, so maybe they decided, all right, tighten our belts. It's time to put the A-listers, put the first line out there and see if we can get a W.
I'm just pulling your leg. Yeah, I love seeing more depth in these rosters, however, that we've got more variety with these teams. I feel, yeah, it's interesting that we get Invictus against Nokron because these are arguably the smallest rosters, and after this we'll have Ariandel, by far the largest roster, against then also Elysium. But yeah, we are, you know, speaking of dynamic killers, we are going into Mastermind next. So, and I really don't want to tear open old wounds. That's it, or put salt in the wound. But we did not see the most favorable result for Team Nokron last time around when they faced Invictus. Rightfully now so being Invictus' second pick of the night. But yeah, our casters will accompany you for that, and our questions will be answered very, very soon. So please take it away, guys.
Thank you so much, Mathis. This is potentially the final match of the series here. Like I said before, backs against the wall for Nokron now. If they've got something to show us, they need to do it right here in this trial. As Pedro already finding multiple survivors here at the main building, going to miss out on those bounds there. It's going to be Zynox and Ivan found here. One takes the window, one takes the pallet, and this first chase has to be huge. If they get down very quickly, put in the middle of the map on a Scourge hook, that is going to spell disaster for this Mastermind result here. This is not a killer that needs to be 4King every match in comp. And oh no, Marcos! He falls for the heartbeat reading mind game, the swing into the pallet. Pedro just feeling it right now as he's getting what is essentially a free hit on a jungle gym onto Marcos. And now he's going to Shack and just going to immediately drop that pallet and vault back out the window. What has he got left here, Zach? This is shaping up to be a pretty fast first down.
Yeah, he's got this God Rock to use, and it's quite hard to bound around these, but no, he makes it work anyway. Just reading the vault on Marcus, that was really impressive by Pedro, especially on such a safe loop, just completely turning that into a 50-50, which is honestly quite impressive. And the patience, unfortunately, was not there for Marcos, and he does go down. But they do answer one gen, and pretty bad timing for Pedro onto the Scourge hook. And is Zaka gonna get found here? He is. Has the Z-wall to work, but is Pedro gonna get the down? Yeah, I mean he triple vaults.
Oh no,
Pedro
he gets
just playing
thrown
that
edge
slowly.
map.
Edge map, yeah, and now he's unsafe, and he has to stay there as well. This is disastrous. Going back to the hook now, the rotations come through, but Zach is left on the floor, and this is going to give Pedro such a good opportunity to get an early elimination onto Marcos. Marcos needs to make it to main building. He needs to get to safety. Only has the head on, doesn't have any form of like exhaustion perk to get distance. And yeah, he's zoning him away from main building. Very smart with Pedro, giving him the little nodders to say, you're going to be dead soon. And we're back again to another Godrock Prion. If you remember how this went last time, we'll see if Marcos can stay alive a little bit longer. But Pedro showing his absolute prowess on the killer.
The condition for outplaying this is that he needs to have Marcos stuck on the middle side of the pallet and him on the short side. But he's actually just going to go for an instant there. Very, very skilled mechanical play here from Pedro, as that's going to be a second hook onto Marcos here. And it really comes back to that down onto Zaka on the edge map. It's a huge mistake. He wasn't fully behind that map geometry. I don't think that was a big enough tile to hide behind there. And especially when you're playing against a team like Invictus, and I mean, these comp players, they play against each other all the time. There's a meta in these comp matches where there's usually somebody hiding for a save before the hook even comes in. It's the most efficient way to play this. So, of course, Pedro is going to briefly check the edge map to see if he can find something. And then the Beetle add-on was not revealed yet when Zaka got grabbed there on the edge map. But I feel like it's been so popular in these Wesker sets that you got to assume it's in play and make sure that you get slammed into the edge map wall there with your positioning if you're caught. So now, these survivors, they know that the Beetle add-on is in play. They don't want to get thrown into a 2-tap here, but in reality, what needs to happen here is the tunnel out onto Marcos needs to be prevented. There aren't any For the Peoples or resurgences in play here against the Mastermind. It's going to have to be a double save here, and he's actually going to be blocking the unhooker. Zaka unable to complete the double save, and Zynox is going to go down. He wasn't correctly positioned there, and that allowed the Mastermind to get in between him and the hook, forcing a trade onto Zynox. As now Marcos, in his final chase potentially of the whole day, he doesn't even have a pallet here. Now back towards this other pallet, and he's just not going to be able to go any further. He's dead. He's dead, Zach, and that is going to be a tunnel out at 4 gens for Pedro. This is looking eerily similar to our match last week.
Yeah, and he has he has Pop Goes the Weasel, and he does have time to check these gens. It wasn't enough progression for Ivan alone to finish that. So if Pedro catches this this second generator, it's going to be really bad, which he does, and he's going to be able to get Eruption on it now. If he catches Ivan in this corner where there's really not much to use, that could be another pain res, another slowdown applied. And Nokron are going to be in such hot water if that goes through. Does opt to break that pallet. Ivan does have this, but he doesn't get the pallet drop in time, and that's going to be an injury so quick. Does have a few pallets to work with here. Of course, Ivan, the 3-minute 3-filler 1v1 Maestro. See how long he can last in this chase. Has this pallet gem, but the pallet is dropped. And he gets ripped by Pedro. Pedro just absolute cinema on these chases. Just showing why he has only got 4Ks on this killer, because he is so mechanically gifted. And the game sense to back it up.
What a read there from Pedro. And I just want to reiterate, that wasn't necessarily a Mastermind specific skill from Pedro there. That was his general killer knowledge of how survivors play these jungle gyms in 1v1s, and he was just applying his Mastermind mechanics to that there. So really impressive stuff out from Pedro. Nice pre-leave here from Zynox. Even walking with the balanced landing to deny scratch marks there. So Pedro is not going to be able to find whoever is doing that main building gen. And this hook is relatively nearby as well. So that generator is going to regress quite a bit there as we see Zynox stealthing over in the corner of the map. It's going to be one more gen completed for Nokron. And now, I mean, they're down to 4K3, not where you want to be at all, as they're going to need to complete at least 1 or 2 more generators if they want a chance to have a good killer result here and keep themselves in this match.
Absolutely. Nokron, a bit of a chance to reset, get some progression back on the map after Pedro slowed them down immediately after that elimination. And Pedro probably knows he's got time here really to secure second stage at the very least, and does have enough distance to those gens that they were working. Of course, I believe Shaq must have got popped because now we're at 3 gens remaining. Didn't quite spot that initially. Yeah, looks like he's interrupting this one. Ivan does go second stage. Pedro taking his time getting Eruption applied, and now Zaka looks like he's facing Chase. Using the sprint burst there, and the rapid response exhaustion giving him aura reading on that on the killer there. Quite good value, and he reads that Zaka's rotating back for the unhook. This is going to be a free unhook. There is going to be no trades. Zaka takes the injury. Does it look like Pedro wants to commit to Ivan though, or go upstairs to main building gen? No, it looks like the chase is going to continue onto Ivan. And Ivan did hit second stage, so this will be a second elimination, and that's going to make it so much harder for Nokron to get anything done in this match. They did have a lot of progression on the main building, so either... Oh, that Eruption comes through actually. That's going to hit Zaka on that far gen, and yeah, I'm wondering how many gens they're going to be able to complete right now.
Yeah, and you know what, Zach? There are certain plays in competitive DBD that you only make because you are in a really bad situation. And I think letting Ivan go to second stage is one of those plays, as Zynox now going to be possibly in chase here at the main building. I mean, they were able to get a decent amount of gen progress in exchange for Ivan going second. And now, unfortunate, -1 eruption usage there for Pedro. He didn't wait long enough to kick the gen. As Zaka now potentially in chase again at this jungle gym. He's got the sprint burst, he's got the rapid response there. That Aurela Rose perk has seen a interesting life already in comp, which is interesting to me. As Zaka now playing another rock filler. Gonna drop the pallet. This is the same situation they were in last time. As the barely misses there. That first one was a hug tech, I believe. As the second bound just not correctly aimed, and this could potentially be a lot of gen progress for Nokron. Ranking that gen with the deja vu as the killer comes right up to it, and he misses a skill check. Oh no! That is the worst possible timing for Zynox. And now he's going to be dropping out of the main building without the balanced landing too, trying to play this window, but it's just not going to work for him. Wait, he dodges out on both bounds. Why didn't he go for an M1 there? That's going to be Zaka finishing the gen, and that other one at the main building is going to be sitting on high progress too. I mean, I think it might have gotten hit by Eruption. No, that's the one that he didn't wait long enough for the Eruption. So that's still going to be sitting at high progress, Zach. If Zaka is able to stealth here, they might actually be able to get down to a 4K1. But on the other hand, Zynox is a fresh hook, so they need to watch out for a pain resonance here. It seems like Pedro is content to slug as Zaka here. This is going to be your stealth moment. How can you stealth? If you get found here, the game is over. Needs to either pick up, do a gen, anything here, anything but getting found. This is one of the most delicate situations when you're playing competitive Survivor, as Pedro going to go for the pickup onto Zynox. This pain res is going to hit that main building gen, and that's going to be the nail in the coffin for Nokron potentially getting down to 4K1.
What decisions are going to be made right now? Of course, the 20% flat regression from pain resonance applied on that one, and it's not like Pedro's not at main building. He actually went up to the side of the map to try and maybe spot Zaka, but Zaka was right there for the unhook, basically ready immediately, and we don't have too much to work with, and Zaka's gonna die as Pedro makes it around the other side. Zaka not expecting him to come from that side. Good pathing from Pedro on his killer there to catch Zaka off guard a little bit. And does he finish this down? It does not sound like they have near enough aggression, and that looks like it might be the 4K2 secured. And oh, that hook tech almost coming through, but Zano's giving him no as he's passed towards this eye loop in the middle of the map. Bit of interaction there between the players, but yeah, doesn't look like they were able to get that last gen done, and this is going to be the 4K2 secured, albeit.
Yeah, and that was actually Repressed Alliance out there from Zynox, a perk that would have mattered quite a bit if there wasn't a tunnel out at 4 gens here in this game. So that's going to be the down onto Zynox as a 4K2 secured on the Mastermind for Pedro and Invictus, just continuing their dominance in this series. And now, I mean, we said it at the beginning of this trial, but this is the most dire situation for Nokron to be in. They are putting a 4K3 win condition onto their killer in this Mastermind set, a killer that usually sees outs.
Yeah, absolutely. A very strong performance coming through onto Pedro. It's always a pleasure seeing him on the Mastermind. He's definitely shown us his skill in the 4v1 on this killer. And yeah, Zaka's got a very tall task on the Mastermind next set. He is a killer that he is fairly proficient on, so if there's anyone that can do it, it's definitely him. But yeah, Invictus is so far just completely dominating. It does have to be said though that of course this is a best of 3 of best of 5, so Nokron aren't out if they lose here. It really is going to come down to the matchup tomorrow. Of course, that's going to be higher stakes, but Nokron can rest easy. This is a 3-0 and a first defeat, but backs against the wall still. And that is going to be the final elimination coming through as Pedro closes hatch and we just finish up this trial. But yeah, I do have to feel like Zaka's probably going to need like a really strong early game if he does want a chance at trying to combat that result. But yeah, that is something that I'm sure analysts can cover. Just handing back over to you guys for your breakdown whilst we get that next set up.
Yes, thank you very much, Zach. We have potentially watched the penultimate trial between Invictus and Nokron in their first best of 5 already today. Since, yeah, Pedro's win condition, or what he's just been able to set up, is very, very, very respectable. 4Ks are not that common on Mastermind, despite the fact he was able to 4K 3 last time. So if we're not looking at it from the standard perspective of what is to be expected from Mastermind, but just within the context of Invictus and Nokron, then at least Nokron did improve by 1 gen. I really want to talk about the build first of all. We've just seen Pop Eruption again for the first time today. So far, we've only seen Call of Brine and Eruption outside from Nightlight's Unknown set. That's the only time we haven't seen that combination before. So Andrew, I want to redirect this question to you. Why do you reckon Pop over Call of Brine for Mastermind?
Well, I gotta say, this is again just a thought, but I think it makes a lot more sense on a killer that is less less oppressive. When you're looking at Blight, Blight can be all over the map all at the same time. If you kick a generator, there's a good chance you are chasing someone away from it, or the person who was on that generator is running over to reset somebody across the map and whatnot. When you're dealing with a lower tier killer, by no means is Wesker a low tier, but lower than Blight. When you're dealing with a killer who's not quite so map oppressive, and not so quick to down, I think that pop gives you the guaranteed. You get the kick away, you apply pop, you get your regression, you apply eruption, so you can figure out, you can get information and regression when you get it down, and you move on, assuming that somebody's stealth by nearby there. I wanted to say that. I just want to throw out there too, that game was a totally different game if Zaka does not get caught Scooby-Dooing behind that wall there, not quite hiding. I think it was Prion pointed out the fact that it was just that one little piece. And man, that is heartbreaking for Nokron fans, because this is looking like a 3-0, and I think it comes down to that one mistake.
Yeah, we saw how detrimental that was. It all started spiraling out of control rapidly upon Zaka being found in that really unfortunate corner. But I'm glad you point that out, because that transitions perfectly into my next question for Flightless. What we saw in that corner when Zaka was found, we saw him vault that Z-wall 3 times, and Pedro was beyond patient on the throw. He could have just unleashed his ability right then and there, thrown him against the wall, and that's the injury. But what he did instead was that I saw him wait until Zaka left that tile, ran out of that corner. I'm guessing Zaka didn't want to get body blocked there, but didn't expect what Pedro was tinkering with. Then we saw him being thrown against the wall, and a 2-tap happened right then and there. So Flightless, I wanna ask you now, if how important is it with Mastermind to angle those throws?
Yeah, with the throws, especially with Beetle, where when you grab a survivor, you then travel a distance and then slam them. With Beetle, that cuts that really short, so you get that throw immediately. And the cooldown for Wesker starts the second the survivor is thrown. So the cooldown is much shorter, which means that with getting thrown by Wesker, it is quite literally a guys I'm 2-tap moment. So you have to be extremely careful. And the fact that if Shaq was orientated a different way with the pallet facing towards edge map, Zaka may have been okay there, because he would have been able to make the pallet.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have been a 2-tap, it would have been an injury, which is still not great, but it wouldn't have been a down. Then Pedro can pressure the unhook as well. So the fact that he got the throw edge map, which is the furthest point away from anything, he didn't have that Z-wall because it was already blocked, and he didn't have Shaq, it created a 2-tap moment. Then the Pedro can go back to the unhook, pressure that, and you have a slug with literally 2 people in chase, only 1 person on a gen. It was really bad for them at that moment.
I'm assuming also that Zaka was supposed to be the savior in that scenario, so that's just even worse, just adding insult to injury. Your core player to bring back the game at that point in time was essentially incapacitated the moment he got found in that position, and that also just immediately gave me throwbacks to last week, to unfortunate situations with Ward every single time. That was also a Mastermind game. It wasn't in similar fashion to what we saw today. That was just straight up almost a double M1 2-tap in the corner that no one expected, and Ward lost 150-50, and it was over that quickly. It's really, really difficult on teams if it happens, and we saw, again, how quickly it just spirals out of control, how quickly it escalates, and how much the killer can profit from it. So yeah, Andrew, what do you think? Who have we got? Zaka again. What does he have to do in this upcoming game? Do you think if he has another one of those chase builds that he might be able to turn this around, or is gen regression gonna be a saving grace here?
We got to get a really quick down. I know that seems like a no-brainer, but we need a really quick down. And we had a pretty good first chase from Pedro last time, which led to that secondary down on Zaka we just talked about. We need a fast down. We need it in a good spot. We need to maybe get a pain res to stop those first gens from popping, because the reality is a good chase from the survivors means 3 gens pop, and we're already in a time condition with no one dead, and that will be the end of Nokron here. I do want to throw out, just before, as we're loading into the last match, if Invictus does win, that will be the win for Invictus, but there's still another best of 5 that Nokron can come back to this one.
Yeah, thank you very much. And with that being said, Zach, it's your time.
Thank you very much, Analysts, for the lovely breakdown. And now we see Zaka faced with a 4K3 win condition. Definitely an uphill battle. Like you guys said, it is a matter of a strong early game. And as routine would say, we are venturing into this corrupt area of the zone. And we have found someone pretty fast. We do actually have Brutal as a bit of a chase perk for Zaka to use. Not going for the full regression option. Wants to get those pallets broken 25% faster. And this is a bit of a kind of staple map for Zaka, at least, because I mean this is like kind of where this is his territory, and especially for his Oni gameplay, he has this tendency to take those pallet perks because of his early game setups. And oh no, he misses the vault. He misses the bound of the rocket, and Roy just vaults into Shack. That's absolute worst case scenario now, because he makes the Shack pallet, and that is a bit of a blunder from Zaka, to be honest, and it's going to really set him back in this early game.
Yeah, and we need to take a second to explain why he missed that, Zach, as that is worst case scenario for Zaka. But the reason why he went for that in that way is that he was trying to force a beetle throw in this first chase into the edge map. And angling away from the Shack there is what allowed Rocket to just take the window. And this is definitely worst case scenario start here for Zaka. He needs it down extremely quickly. Pre-run coming out from whoever was working this gen. Saw the scratch marks over towards the main building. Going to be checking lockers as well. Nothing there. And no injury yet. This is so bad for Nokron. As a 4K3 result here is nearly impossible on the Mastermind here against these survivors. As that gen in the corner was actually being doubled. There was one pre-run away from it, and then one survivor in the edge map there, and that's Dan. So Dan now camping the pallet, going to be taking that sprint burst away towards the main building. Very strong area here, and I just want to say, Zach, as we see Dan just vault back into the killer, so unfortunate that you can do that against Wesker, is we are only going to be seeing these strong pallets at the gyms and other structures just dropped here. As I say that, Dan starts to greet a pallet, but these teams, they just want to buy as much time as humanly possible in the safest way that they can, because they know that their win condition is to do 3 gens. Zaka backing away from the tile here. It's going to be a hit there onto Dan. First injury, but it came out before the first gen, or right like after the first gen was popped. So still really bad situation here for Zaka. On the chance that Spitz and Rocket are actually on separate gens, the game could end right now. At least the possibility of a win for Nokron.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, for 4K3 win conditions, you need like someone nearly dead, basically. And they weren't doubling. They were splitting Prion. Like you said, that's just like at least the tie condition secured now. So if Nokron want at least some form of penance, they need to essentially need. What? Hold on a minute. Wait, what? Prion, what just happened there?
Well,
just slid on the rock.
I don't like it, but I think I can explain what happened there. As if you've ever played Blight and slid off of something that you thought you could bump into, it has to do with when map geometry in Dead by Daylight is smaller on the top than it is on the bottom. And there's a section of that hill there where it kind of like fans out towards the bottom in a kind of like a slash on your keyboard would be. And that's actually going to be a really nice throw onto Rocket there, but the final gen is being doubled. But anyways, when you throw a survivor into that surface where the bottom is bigger than the top, they don't collide. And they slide along it, trying to find a place where they can collide. And so that's why there wasn't an injury there onto Dan. Interesting Dead by Daylight map geometry trivia for you there.
It could also be plot armor, you never know. It could be plot armor for the survivors. If we're getting superstitious, but man, everything just going right for Invictus. That's really the point I'm trying to make. They're just doing so well in this set so far. Dan spotting out the double back. A few mind games coming through, and Dan's got good patience on that little check spot there. Does almost actually...
Almost gets hit there.
Yeah, almost gets hit. So good recovery from Zaka. And then now we have this God Rock to play around. Dan's going to be safe for a little bit longer. Zaka not able to mind game. Insane checkbox from our survivor here. And yeah, you can see all 3 survivors working those gens. We're going to be endgame fairly soon. even after this chase, just absolute dominance, especially because he's missing all of these 50s. Well, they're not 50s, but yeah, just Zaka needs elimination fast. He needs some form of kill here if he wants to get a decent result, but it looks like we are just going to be faced with the 3-0.
Yes, and that generator being done by Spitz is the 3-0 secured for Invictus. And Pedro going to be finishing the 5th and final generator here any second now. Just dominant performance from Invictus today. And if I'm being honest, Zach, I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't get to cast more games together today. It's already over.
Yeah, it's such a hype matchup too. I'm so sad we didn't get like a game 7 or at least more than 3 games. But just Invictus showing us that they're not here to mess around. They know what's at stake, and they are absolutely locked in. And if they play to Nokron, but I feel like this has been Invictus's day for this first match, if you'd agree with me.
Invictus's day, I think it's been Invictus's month so far. In Season 10, leading up to these playoffs here, I would say that the storyline here now is who can stop Invictus. This is the second time that in a very short period of time that Nokron has been 3-0'd by Invictus. And we're going to have some more exciting matches this weekend between other teams. And I mean, that is the question that I would pose to you guys in chat is who will be able to stop Invictus? Is there anybody who can do that here in our field remaining? Because they are on fire right now, just lights out on the Survivor side. And I mean, looking like the best team in the league right now. But we are going to be having more games today. We've got 2 other teams that probably have something to say about what I just said about Invictus. So I believe that is going to be it for Zach and myself. And we're going to be throwing it back over to the analyst desk here as we set up the next game. But Zach, do you have anything else you want to say before we take our leave?
I'm essentially changing rooms. I'm going from the caster desk to the analyst desk, so it's not goodbye from me. But as always, it's such a pleasure to cast with you, Prion. You're always so knowledgeable and analytical. It's very, very fun to break down these high-level games with you. But yeah, thank you for casting with me. And
of course,
I think we've got another fun matchup ahead, but definitely an exciting weekend to share together.
Yeah, and this is going to be goodbye for me today, guys. You will see me on the analyst desk tomorrow. But before I go and throw it back over to our other lovely casters and analysts, just want to say subscribe to DBDLeague on YouTube, follow DBDLeague on X, join the DBDLeague Discord, and I want to shout out that guy who joined my Twitch stream and waited about 2 minutes to say, wait, I know your voice from somewhere. You're the guy from DBDLeague. That was really funny and made my day.